So one of the questions, or one of the big questions I ask when we're vetting out, is we ask them what they do on a day-to-day basis. We want to get an indicator of how much time this person has available to put into a business. I always say side hustle time equals side hustle result. You can't breathe new life into a business unless you dedicate the time and attention on it. That first 12 months of a franchise is the most pivotal time that you need to put a ton of energy and time to grow this business. Hey everyone, welcome to Courtside Conversations. My name's Emile, founder and owner of Little Boomers Basketball, and it's a pleasure to be your host today. Wherever you're watching today's episode, I hope you're having a booming day, and yes, the pun is intended. My journey to entrepreneurship started on May 1st, 2018 when I launched my first basketball program with 9 kids enrolled. Today, thousands of kids across Australia are thriving in our programs, all thanks to the commitment and passion of our incredible franchisees. This podcast is here to give you real, straightforward, no BS insights into business, entrepreneurship, and what it's like to own a franchise. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Okay, early FYI and warning, today's episode is going to be a rant from a reoccurring issue that we see happening in our network. So hide your kids. This one's going to be more of a rant. Now, today I did want to speak about if I was buying a franchise today, here are 3 things I'd look for before signing a dotted line. But I think this is a much more valuable lesson to go over in this episode because we're facing it right now in our network. And I think it's a really, really good eye-opener and a reality check for those that are coming into a franchise. So one of the questions, or one of the big questions I ask when we're vetting out a potential person interested in franchising, making sure that they're the right fit, is we ask them what they do on a day-to-day basis. Like what's your life like? Do you have kids? Do you have family? Do you have a full-time job? Like, what do you do day to day? Now, the reason why we ask these questions is we want to get an indicator of how much time this person has available to put into a business, right? And it's so funny because when I ask this question, I start to pile on everything. Oh, I've got a wife, I've got 2 kids, I've just got a newborn, I've got a 9-to-5 job. And then when they put all this, the next question I ask them is, so how much time can you put onto this new business? And sometimes I'll get this response, I'll work around it, my job's flexible. I can take lunch. I've got an hour here on my lunch break. I've got afternoons after 4 free. I'm also free someone on the weekends. And, they try to say, I can do this. And they really underestimate how much time it is to require in a business. They give me fragmented time, half an hour here, 1 hour here. And unfortunately, that's not going to cut it when you're starting a new business. If you're going to, put side hustle time, I always say side hustle time equals side hustle result. If you're going to give the business whatever is left over after your 9-to-5 job, after everything, then guess what? It's not going to work out and it's going to fail. You can't breathe new life into a business unless you dedicate the time and attention on it. And then they'll get into a little bit of a frantic. I can do 1 hour here. It doesn't work. And I think what happens is humans have a tendency to really underestimate things, right? And I think social media is to blame here. Unfortunately, social media has painted this get rich scheme all over socials. Start your own business, turn over 6 figures in 6 months, work from home, be your own boss, work on your terms. And everybody's getting inflated with this stuff. It's getting into their mind. So then they're thinking, you know what, I can start my own business. I've got a bit of time here on a Tuesday. I've got a couple of hours on the Saturday. And we've got a tendency to underestimate things. And today's episode is to tell you the time commitment for any franchise, whether it's a big franchise, a small franchise, starting up a business in 2025, whether it's a franchise or your own thing, you need to put in a lot of time. A lot of time. And I want to give you this example, right? And I actually do this exercise with everybody that's interested in franchising in the early stages. I picture a jar. I say, okay, let's pretend that your jar is all the time that you have in a week. Let's see what takes up your jar. I've got a 9-to-5 job. Okay, 3/4 of the jar is done, Monday to Friday. I've got kids and family. The jar's almost at full level. I'm also got this on the side that I'm starting up. And then I say, okay, your jar is full. where are you going to get 20 to 30 hours per week to work on this business? And then they look at me and they say, oh, I can do weekends and stuff. I said, well, that's great, but schools and daycares aren't open on weekends. So how's that going to help? Oh, Monday I can do, 1 hour here. Well, that's going to be fragmented time and it's not going to be deep work. And it's an exercise that I recommend everybody goes through before they invest into a franchise. Really look at your life right now. I've got a partner, but I've got no kids, right? And I still live from home. So my time is a lot more flexible than others. But other people aren't in that situation. If you've got family, kids, newborn, 9-to-5 job, you need to understand if you're going to go into a franchise, where are you going to invest the time to make it grow? Now, here's the example that I want to give to you that's going to really, shift things into perspective. Let's say you want to start a family, and congratulations, you just had your first newborn, right? As soon as you have a child and give birth and have a family, you have just signed the waiver that you are no longer important in this world. The priority, and it should be, unfortunately it's not for everybody, your priority should be this baby. Your whole life, your whole world works around this baby, especially from 0 to 5. Forget about getting your 8 hours sleep. You're going to have sleepless nights, right? All your time and attention goes to this baby. And it's important during the infancy stage that you actually feed the baby, take care of the baby, nurture the baby, because that's the highest rate of death, right? If they don't get the nurturement, God forbid, they can die. So you need to nurture this baby, make it grow. You've got to spend so much time with this baby. Now, and that's like a business, right? That first 12 months of a franchise is the most pivotal time that you need to put a ton of energy and time to grow this business, especially on the first 12 months where you're launching, you've got no members, you're getting it out in the community. It's going to be the highest amount of time that you work on the business because you're trying to breathe life into this business. Now, after 12 months, or after 5 years, the baby's starting to walk now, you're getting a bit of your time back, but it still requires a lot of attention from 5 to 10 years or 5 to 12 years as it's going through kindergarten and primary school. Now, as your business grows, yes, you don't have to spend as much time as you did in that first 12 months because by now you've got the hang of things, you've got systems in place, you've got a support team, hopefully you've recruited good staff, you've got a marketing funnel, but you still need to put a lot of time into the business. Now, when a child or when a teenager is 15 years onwards, you've pretty much done all you can. If you haven't laid out the foundations before 15, I believe there's no chance. They've now got a model of the world, they've got beliefs, they've got values, everything's been set. So if you did a great job as a parent from 0 to 15, from 15 years onwards, you should be sweet. You're going to have hiccups here and there, but I believe if you've done your job from 0 to 15, it should be sweet. And that's like a business. After the 3-year mark, and not 15 years, but after the 3-year mark, if you've laid out your foundation, put the time and energy, and scaled the business, it should be able to run without you if you've got proper systems in place. Hey, just quickly, if you're enjoying today's episode, it will mean the world to me if you can leave a positive review or share it with a friend that may benefit from this. I've also put some bonus resources in the description, including a real franchise case study that you can download under our Franchise Success Blueprint. Hope you find it useful. Enjoy the rest of the episode and rock on. Adios. But the main thing here is do not underestimate the first 12 months of running any business or franchise. It is tough. You will have sleepless nights. And if your jar is at full capacity, kids, family, full-time job, then guess what? You're going to have to figure out where you're going to put the time. Something has to give. So when I'm speaking to someone, I say, look, you're going to have to go part-time. I can't see this franchise working for you unless you go part-time, right? And then you might be thinking, oh, Emile, that's a bit too tough. Don't they got, food on the table and stuff? I don't want to set somebody up for failure by underestimating how much time it's requiring to grow a franchise just to sell them in the door, get the 50, 55K, bring them in, right? Sell the dream. And then they're like, oh my God, there's so much time. I've got to respond to inquiries. I've got to get back to parents. Parents can be so demanding. My job as a franchisor is to sell the dream. It is a great industry we're in, but not underestimate the amount of work that's required to start a franchise. I won't sleep well at night if I'm bringing people in a door and not letting them know of what's required. And I get all my prospects, everybody interested in franchising, to actually call a franchisee and to pick their brains. So you've got to be really open and honest with yourself. And if you're going to start a franchise and your jar's at full capacity, something needs to give. Whether it's part-time, something has to work out so you can put the time into the business. Every business is different. Now, I think the problem is a lot of people will come in and say to me, yeah, you know what, Emile, I'm just going to keep my job, and when this franchise takes off, I'm then going to dial back from my part-time job and eventually quit my corporate job and take this full-time. That's a great plan in theory, but here's the problem with that. If you're going to keep your full-time job and just wait for things to get better, the businesses are going to grow and expand. Like if your intentions are, you know what, I'm just going to dedicate the bare minimum or whatever time I have on this franchise, and hopefully it takes off and I can quit my corporate job. Guess what? That's a recipe for failure, because you're hoping and waiting for something to take off without giving it its maximum time and attention. It's not going to work out. 6 months, 12 months, 3 years will go by and the business is still at the level that it's at. So you need to understand, if that's your game plan, like I'm just going to play it safe, I'm going to keep my full-time job and hope that this takes off and then dial back, it's not going to work out, right? Because you're not putting in the time into the business. You're just hoping things get better. And that's something that people will tell me all the time. So that's my little rant, guys. It's a problem that we're facing in a network. And I want to also mention this as well, right? Like, I'm not naive. You know, shit happens in the world. Like sometimes you might come into a franchise and you've got a lot of time and you're dedicating the minimum time. You know, every franchise is different. Ours is 25 to 30 hours per week. Some might be more, some might be less. But at the end of the day in the world, like shit happens. Like you might have an event that was unforeseen or that you didn't know was going to happen. And now your time is cut dramatically. And my suggestion to you would be, if that has happened to you and you've come into a franchise and your life has changed, which it has happened for a couple of franchises, guys, don't stick around into the franchise and give it your bare minimum. Because you know what's going to happen then? If you're going to give the franchise your bare minimum, it's going to suffer. The brand's going to suffer. Your reputation's going to suffer. The quality of the service is going to drop. And you know what that means? The franchisor has to step in. It gets ugly. Warnings get done. Breach notices get done because the quality's dropping. And remember, in my previous episode, it's the role of the franchisor to make sure that the franchisee is maintaining the highest standard in their franchise. So if life changes and you're saying, you know what, I can't commit into this franchise, so I'm just going to sit down and wait until I find a potential buyer. In the meantime, I'm going to do the bare minimum. I'm not going to be present in the franchise. I'm just going to let it run until I find a buyer. Don't do that, because you're going to let the brand suffer that the franchisor has built up, and it's just going to get ugly. It's best that you find the buyer as soon as possible. You be open and honest with the franchisor, which we had a franchisee the other day say, look, I just can't commit. I've got a full-time job. I'm about to land this. I don't want the brand to suffer. Let me know what the procedure is to sell. And kudos to that person for being open, honest, and transparent, right? Get the process of a sale done quickly, because nobody wants the brand to suffer. Nobody wants it to get ugly when the franchisor now has to hold the franchisee accountable because the quality of the standard is dropping. If life changes, be open and honest. Move on quickly. Find the buyer quickly. Do your due diligence quickly. And don't just stick around for the sake of finding a buyer, because it always gets ugly. So guys, thank you for listening to my rant. I hope you did find a little bit of golden nuggets underneath all of it. I want to finish off with this as my conclusion. Before you come into a franchise, look at your life, do a time jar analysis, see how much time you have for this business. If the franchisor is selling you on very minimal time, see through that stuff and just think to yourself, I'm going to have a baby. If I'm going to have a baby with my family, how am I going to give this business enough time? Pretend that your business is a baby. Take it as serious as you would giving birth to a new baby. How am I going to give this business a time? If that means bringing in a partner to help you with the time, working with your wife, working with your husband. We have a lot of franchisees come in, husband and wife. Wife does the admin, husband does the coaching side of things. If that means dialing back on your part-time job, a full-time job and going to part-time, but just think to yourself, starting a franchise or a business in 2025 is very difficult. How am I going to breathe life into my business for the first 12 months to make sure I'm successful? Thank you for watching, team. I'll see you, or listening, I should say. I'll see you in the next episode.